Earlier this week, dozens of prominent Catholic leaders got together to discuss division and polarization among Catholics and in American culture. Georgetown University's Initiative on Social Thought and Public Life organized the conference. Topics included race, abortion versus issues of social justice, and faith and politics. Participants examined how Catholic social teaching can help the faithful overcome division. Joining us now is Gloria Purvis, co-host of Morning Glory on EWTN Radio. Gloria took part in the conversation. Gloria, welcome back to the program. This meeting brought Catholics together, some with different viewpoints. What was the goal? What was the mission of this?
The goal of the meeting was unity, for us to realize we have one Catholic faith and to unify all of us and to overcome this seeming polarization in the Catholic Church in the United States.
One of the ways to do that they talked about is Catholic social teaching, is doing that through that and bridging this divide. One of the big issues, though, that divide people is the issue of life and social justice, for example. How do you think Catholic social teaching brings people together on that?
Well, we need to realize the interconnectedness of it. While I believe what's foundational is the life issue, life and dignity and human respect for the human person, which is a principle of Catholic social teaching is a foundational point. We talked about how all of it was interconnected, whether it's preferential option for the poor or the common good. All of these issues are interrelated. And when you rip them apart, instead of it being a garment that protects the person, in my opinion, it becomes a noose that hangs them.
Speaking of bringing all these issues together, another important topic that you brought up is racism. You led a panel about this issue. How do you think that Catholic teaching can help us to eliminate racism in our country?
Well, number one, recognizing that we are all made in the image and likeness of God, and that's where we get our dignity and human respect. But in terms of an actual approach, one of the things that came out during my particular panel on racism is to recognize each person as maybe a long-lost relative that you don't yet know. That makes it so much easier to approach them because, number one, they're already family, and number two, you just want to get to know them better. And there was some talk about the fact that we really can't overcome racism until we name it and we talk about it. Much like when you go into the confessional, you need to name your sin. Well, we need to name our sin before we can start to do the penance for it.
It's a really good idea, by the way, viewing everybody as a long-lost family member.
Yeah, I think it's easy.
You yourself are pretty outspoken about your Catholic beliefs. What do you think you learned from this conference, or what stood out to you, and how do you think you can move forward now?
What stood out to me is something that Professor Helen Alvarez said at the public comment section on Monday night during the convening, was that while each person may have a particular passion, like her passion is life and marriage, while that of her husband is economics and trade, it doesn't mean that your passion makes you at odds with any other point in Catholic social teaching. So they're gifts. My passion is life and issues on women and sex. That's my gift that God gave me, that I focus on that. And it doesn't mean that somebody else who's focusing on the environment doesn't also care for the unborn. We have to remember, as they said during the conference, there is no single issue saint.
It's such an important message and important to remind people about how all of these issues are so interconnected. Gloria Purvis, co-host of Morning Glory on EWTN Radio. Thanks so much for talking with us about it.
Thanks, Wyatt.